So, hi Wawi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi,
This is another
Kim.
episode of A Studio of One's Own, which is named after Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. And it's actually a weekly online dialogue session that seeks to reach out to various artists from quiet corners of the world and catch up with them on their changing creative routines now that they having been confined to their home space. So, Wawi Navarroza, did I pronounce that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Navarroza. Yes.
Navarroza. She's a Filipino contemporary artist using photography and actively exhibiting in the Philippines and internationally. Her works investigate displacements, disorientation, and discovery, all perhaps to mirror a path to understanding a deeper sense of place and identity. So, before we kind of officially begin, I guess, how are you doing? And could you give us a small update on what you've been up to keep yourself busy?
Mhm. So here in Manila, we've lifted the quarantine, like another version of it. Like some people have returned to work, and
Hmm.
some things have been slowly returning to normal. But on my end, it's still kind of catching up to the sort of like this dizziness that happened from March to now. So a lot of figuring out where to sort of begin and how to reimagine and how to because things are never going to go back to the same as it was,
Yep.
for better and for worse, not for worse, but just like this is the reality now, just have to accept it. So
Yep.
on my end, I've been like the rest of the world, focused on the home, focused on how to um, get through day to day, and also maintaining sanity, I guess, because once you're isolated, no matter how um, you could you could spend your time doing all sorts of things, from reading books or to creating art or to doing that, but the prosaic, or what they would call prosaic before, would be the ones at the forefront. So I found myself, like the rest of my artist friends, rediscovering what we cook, and then regrowing on my side. I've been regrowing my vegetables and just planting
Wow.
in. Um, Also, like partially because I want to see if that could be sustainable for me as a
Mm.
somebody living in a small space, and just to try. I don't know how it would eventually pan out, but it kept me like gave me a routine at least. So yeah, gardening, micro gardening as I call it, just in the home, nothing big,
Wow.
just from scraps, from vegetables that I already bought from what we had at the time was like online delivery, so I really couldn't go out. Another one was I was doing is also just looking through my archives and trying to see what's out there, because don't think I was in the mood, or I was inclined to create in
Mm.
the beginning of this lockdown. So it was more about seeing what I already have
Yeah.
and what I wanted to do with it. And I'm still in the process of doing that, actually. So in a nutshell, so yeah,
Wow.
building from that, from 2 months of being isolated.
Wow. I like that. You talked about just like gardening, and I think this lockdown has also forced us as humans to stop like consuming so much and also just like produce from what we have. And this idea of like being isolated is it's like it forces us to really stop doing so much and just like really look into ourselves. And
Yeah.
like I see that reflected in like a lot of your work. So you have a lot of self portraits, and they often, you know, delve into the self and like the body of the artist. So I'm wondering how, that period of the quarantine actually gave you this sense of solitude and quietness, and how it affected the way you looked at your previous works or the way you think about creating new ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, you're right, Kim. It's the the whole situation focused everybody to live with the fact of there's isolation and solitude, and for some it's really difficult to deal with that. But for artists, I know that artists, this is not something strange to us. It's actually a playground for
Mm.
artists to be in our zones, to entertain the ideas or entertain even just the pleasure of doing the work itself. But um, like I said in the beginning, although there was kind of like the solitude was there, there was also um, questions of about survival, about where does the individual fit in the whole
Mm.
picture, and also the society and my country, family, friends. So that was kind of more on feeling through these changes, rather than going to work mode and doing that. So I guess there was, I would say that these were all inputs. I paid attention to what I was feeling at that time, and it was up and down anxieties that are
Mm.
built more and more, like every day, the news, everything. So the way that it affects my work now is that even if I do a lot of self portraits, it's not really just about myself. I just use myself as a prism of the experience, where the experiences pass through, and then I rethink on it. I put it in the world of symbols, so that it can be translated into a tableau or a
Mm.
collage for the camera. So before that could happen, I would have to live all of that kind of interior material, as I call it, like from the emotions, from the
Mm.
mental, from the rethinking, from the imagining. So all of these are at this point still um, a mush. Actually, it's still let's fermenting, I guess.
Yep.
So the just to sum it up, I guess more it's not that I'm not working, but it's more of internal, like writing, a lot of thinking, and less producing. And I am taking this and being kinder to myself as a creator, that we don't really need to be pressured to create just because we need to make sense right away. But
Mm.
it's a invitation to reinvent already what we already know, and be open to what we don't know, and there's a lot
Right.
we don't know at the moment. Yeah.
Yes. Wow,
Yeah.
I really like that. I think a lot of the response to crisis is always to find like solutions, and but yeah, you're right, and there's this very human reaction that we often try to reject, which is just to sit and just absorb whatever's going on, which
Mhm.
is really important even in just like the creative process as well. Yeah, like you were mentioning some of the tableaus that you've created. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about your most recent work, self-portraits and the tropical gothic? I'm really intrigued by this, like the weaving, like what you said of the Eastern and Western symbols. And yeah.
So yeah, for those who are listening to this, you can just go through my website, and then you could see the images from that recent work. It's I guess I summarize my recent works as self-portraits, and it self-portraits that delve into self
Mm.
and the surrounding, which is kind of like it has an interplay always with the self and the surrounding. I wanted to focus on where I'm situated at the moment, where I'm from, where I grew up, where I really kind of observe the hybridity of this place, which is the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines. And it was something that I wanted to underline at the moment, is that as an artist, first of all, we are always sent to some other place. Like it's always like a situation that we're um, located from where we began.
Yeah.
So there's a peripatetic sense of it, like we are being transplanted all the time, and we're absorbing, we're accumulating, we're also integrating and all synthesizing and exhibiting and all of that. So there's already that layer of the
Mm.
person as an artist, and there's another layer which is female.
Right,
So the
right.
female
Okay.
blended into that, and also the identities of Asian, Southeast Asian,
Mm.
or even if that term is kind of more of a concept than an actual definition. So it's like,
Definitely.
if you're an Asian, Pan Asian, transnational, and female artist living in the now, coming from the Philippines with a layered history
Yeah.
that is, all of this combined, and and it to me, just to showcase that as a plate. Now, not even proposing something new, but it's like, this is us. This is like the hybrid mixture of what happened to this, how do you call it, sedimentation of different things.
Right.
Yeah, so the self is malleable. The self is very plural. So there's not only one identity. So in my tableaus, it's about my experiences, but also kind of abstracted into, like, welcoming whatever came through my experiences
Mm.
living in Spain, also like responding to the history of my country with Spain, or with the United States as well, by using fabrics, by using elements found in the work, by using color, which is this kind of like really strong, saturated, what do you call it, sun drenched, like very vibrant,
Yes.
very, and also kind of bordering on kitsch, but it's not also limited to that.
Mm.
But but it's kind of fun to play with, actually, because the Philippines is a country of a lot of um, w- we would just say Gothic for now, but because this term
Okay.
tropical Gothic was coined by our national artist for literature, Nick Joaquin, trying
Wow.
to
Okay.
describe this syncretic mix of the Filipino that seems to be uh, on the surface very contrasting. Like, for example, we have a
Mm.
very Catholic culture mixed with pagan
Yes.
culture, which is like we're very superstitious. We believe in like mini rituals at home. What's lucky, what's not lucky, and then put it all that, and and dash it with some salt coming from the region, which is informed also by our influences from China and India, and then all of that. So it's the what Nick Joaquin at the time was called tropical Gothic, and not only
Mm.
in custom, but also in temperament. We're very Latin. We're very absorbed into, we're very, as Filipinos, we're very into the emotions and to the extremes of that as well. And the Gothic also is the absurd that happens almost every day, that we see in the news, that things that don't make sense, things
Yeah.
that are um, happening in our country, which is like, how did we get here? So to
Mm.
me, that it just brings, it's a perfect container to ask questions also, at the same time, to visually depict, okay, so this is the first layer, you see appearances, but then I just began this series, so it would be like more and more um, nuanced, I guess, but I started from the self because that was what I was, um,
Mm.
wherever I went there was the self, so it made sense to start from that. And I made a still life in January, um, and it's called All the Luck That You Need, and it's all made out of lucky lucky plants. because for everything that we know, we have problems where we just we have this fatalistic nature also to put our fortunes into to what is lucky and
Yes.
unlucky and all these things. So yeah, just to give an idea of where I'm from and what is the Philippines um, sort of portrait in a
Mm-hmm.
nutshell. Yeah.
I think it was a great work. It was really like a feast, you know, of just like every time you look at it, there were just different things that you could pick out. And it's great because I know Philippines currently is, you know, a place that has is going through a lot of anxieties as well, like regarding, you know, like the pandemic, and also like on a international scale. I was wondering, as an artist, like how do you feel that how do you view this pandemic um as a Filipino artist, and also as if the pandemic has revealed something to you about your country that you had not known previously. Yeah.
Yeah, because at what the pandemic did to us is um, the more we got isolated, the more we also got in touch with the reality of the society.
Yeah.
So the society that we're part of, and me as a Filipino, my works have always been um, internal, always processed internally, like to do that.
Mm,
But like what they say, the personal is political, although it's not at the forefront of my work. It definitely colors it. So in the future, the artists would have to be not necessarily activists, um, like like an obvious
yes.
statement to that, but the works have to be conscious about what they are in the
Mm,
society, but not only social justice, but just to provide something that, because art, it's not just one thing. So if it's purely for pleasure, does it mean that it's not socially relevant?
right.
You know, these are questions that we also need to ask, like
Mm-hmm.
but if you ask me, all the works that will begin from now would have to be considered in light of our 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 times, whether the agenda is very clear or it's like
Yes.
more of an introspection, more of a what's this person thinking, what is he or she feeling through this time, you know, because that could still be information when we look at it 50 years from now. So
Mm,
yeah, so the works will be touched by this time, like no matter what you, no matter, it's inevitable. You don't have to even, you don't even have to try that hard, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Actually,
Mhm.
like that reminds me of this recent public poll that was conducted in Singapore. So it was conducted with 1,000 or so public members, and then they actually labeled artists the most non-essential career in Singapore. And so and it was published in the national paper. So when it was revealed, I think it stirred up a lot of reactions in the community, especially the art community. And I mean, that was it was public. It was specific to the pandemic, in time of the pandemic. But what I'm curious to know is what you see the role of the artist it plays in times of crisis, especially since you mentioned a little bit about how, you know, it is kind of the responsibility of the artist's work to be conscious of its time. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess because the public or in general, people have an idea of arts as a kind of a pastime, you know, kind of um, a vehicle for expression, you know, or something beautiful in
Yes.
a frame. Yeah, so this is something that could be traced, like okay, how a certain society really thinks of their art or culture.
Mm,
So I guess there should be like a reintroduction of what art is, because art is always asked for its utility. What's the use of art? So I guess the reasoning of why people consider it to be non-essential, because you can't really use a painting for something, right? You can't use a sculpture, or you can't use an installation for something that is
Right.
more essential, such as food or other services. But the one thing that is very prevalent and very in our faces is that the arts, or the creative arts or applied arts, many layers of different arts, is part of economy. So it's economy driven. It contributes to the economy as well. So I'm saying this because it late last year I gave master class at UNESCO in Dhaka, that
Mm.
we were educating the photographers where they were in the picture, because of economy, because there seems to be like an insecurity if you're an artist, that you are not a part of a bigger
Yes. Yes.
network that contributes to what is actually being um, building, that what is actually building society. But if you
Mm.
take a look, if you reconsider, arts could be relevant more than ever, because we can we can transmute information into something that is digestible for a public, like
Yeah.
let's say graphics, or something that is like more for introspection, like poetry and literature. So these are not direct needs, but these are also needs.
Yep.
Yeah. So it could range from really useful, like infographics, or it could be as abstract as, let's say, poems and think pieces that are made by artists, because artists also function as um, the society's new intellectuals, I guess, like intellectuals in a way that we always rethink, reimagine, and find meaning where there is confusion and where there's chaos. The artist would always have something that that puts the collective catharsis into a form, like what Picasso did with the Guernica, what
Mm.
the disasters of war by Goya. So it's like we need to go through this time also as a collective. There would be a need for this um, catharsis, I guess. So essential or non-essential, arts to me would always be relevant, because that's the human spirit. When you talk about art, it's really about what is very, you can't really, you can't really point a
That's
finger
true.
where that is, but that's what makes us human. That's why
Mm-hmm.
it's called humanities to begin with. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It is true. I mean, like, you can't really um think about life without having someone just like translate these experiences to people as well. There was even a joke saying that the artist who made the infographic for the poll must have had such a bad time doing it, because it's just, yeah, it was quite ironic. But I mean, you when you think about communication of your works to society, I guess we're like in terms of the whole art industry, we've also been seeing a change or like a shift of communication to fit like an online virtual platform. And yeah, we've seen like festivals and exhibitions becoming digitized to fit the screen. And as like a media artist, I'm curious to know how you see this digital transition, and also as an artist who still very much works with like sculptural forms and like tangibility of material. Yeah, especially since that's quite prominent in your practice as well. So how does that kind of redefine the way you choose to exhibit your work in a time where we have moved online?
Yeah, because the more we were isolated, the more we were confronted with space and the
Mm-hmm.
limitations of that space. In that case, it's a box, it's a house, or anything that is the walls. So what we have now is a space that is completely open 24/7, just
Yep.
online. And then there's a democracy of the space, this medium. So I'm very I'm very positive that this could be a new way to bring us closer and also to present works. Although of course there's limitations to it, like the tactile
Mm.
um, qualities, and also for me, the scale, because the scale is
Yes.
going to be like a screen, the phone, or the rectangle of a laptop. So there's, I mean, with in relation to our eyes, then we have to zoom in, zoom out. Like this whole experience of looking would change,
Yeah.
especially in installation and sculptures. That would also change. Um, I guess there would be a time that we could go out again and take a look at the works itself, but I mean, what the galleries are doing right now is that they're reformatting some of their programs to be more how do they call it, like online, but more involved.
Right.
Like I just saw the Art Basel online platform yesterday, and then they can zoom in to the actual material on the surface, so you
Yes.
get to feel it in a way. There are like maquettes of people, so you could get the scale of the work. Um, to me, I think we're just beginning to explore. So here, I think there's going to be more collaborations between media artists, transmedia artists, people who could translate ideas into back end, how to make
Mm-hmm.
experiences online. For photographers, I would think that instead of producing more or taking more pictures, we are now invited to look into our archives and to edit, because I think I'm guilty for that. I have a lot of images that don't go anywhere because for lack of time, or for kind
Yeah.
of like you have all these forefront images. But I believe the artist's strength is to integrate them and put them together in how they see the
Mm-hmm.
world, seeing these
Mm-hmm.
images. Because these images are like words, and the words you can make into a sentence or paragraph. So it's a matter of editing, and to me that is something exciting, and I hope I'll be able to make more, either in the form of small publications, but not
Wow.
really printing it, because at the moment producing is costly, and we don't know even,
Yeah.
so it's like more of a PDF outputting, or websites that are
Yeah.
being, yeah, edited like that. So yeah, I'm actually excited about that, and we have more work to do in our computers more than ever.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely. I
Mm.
think it also revealed a lot of the shortcomings of the art industry before we even like moved online, because now you realize there are so many things that can be done without you physically needing to be at a space. And
Yeah.
like I love what you said about editing, because it really like redefines the artist process of, making all the time, and when really it is so important to like pause and look back on the things that you have had not didn't have the time to really refine and edit. So
Yeah.
yeah, and like and speaking of that, I mean I see this pandemic, as kind of like a worldwide interruption um on social activity. And so you I guess like the individual is now being, like what you said, confined to a box or like a space where they have to redefine um the way they work, or the way they view themselves in place of the world. So I guess my question to you is how you see yourself navigating this new solitude, and how this has affected your judgment of like time as well, and your job. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, coming from a very anxious April, May,
Yes.
uh, and friends breaking down, or friends
Oh
having problems.
no.
Well, all of us are having multiple complexities, and just mentioning the individual, but we're also some. the quarantine, you'd have to deal with issues of boundaries between people living together in the same box. That's another
Yes.
story. But for me, I realized, okay, we can't do anything about it. I cried already what I could cry. And then I said, okay, the thing is, we don't know what's going to happen. So let's kind of like conserve the energy
Yep.
and
Yep.
conserve whatever savings there was, because we don't know in terms of livelihood. As artists, we're always vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know. So like this, so what I did was I said, okay, this is my studio. It doesn't make sense right now because I cannot go there, and it's such a big space that's just sitting there. All my materials and the rent is um, hefty, and that's not something
Yep.
that I would feel good, like always anxious about it. So I gave it up.
Oh, wow.
For the first time, I don't feel any sort of grief. Well, maybe like, okay, sad that it's I don't have a physical space to play with, and
Yeah.
with my works it's necessary because my works really need a stage to
Skill.
put it.
Yeah.
It's like a huge space. But now, okay, like in the process of inhalation, and I say, okay, let's just no physical studio, let's work with what we have. And
Mm-hmm.
I told myself, I'd be we're artists, we always innovate. um, it could be a desk or it could be anything, you know. I could just make use of what I have, and if I don't have it, I could ask help. Because I think now more and more we are also uh, we see how other people play, what
Mm-hmm.
they play in our lives, our friends and our family, or the people we choose to be connected with.
Definitely.
So there, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just um, putting everything streamlined, organizing my thoughts for the future work. And the works would be smaller because
Mm-hmm.
no space means smaller works. Um, my gallery's working. They're back. They're doing online. We just did an online show, and they've also mounted a physical show, but by appointment. Um, so there's that. Um,
Wow.
my gallery represents my work. But for new works, I don't think there's a pressure to do a lot of that. If it happens, it happens,
Yep.
and if not, it will take in the form of other shapes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wow, cool. I guess, since Manila has reopened in 1st June, how has that change been so far? And I was wondering also with regards to the art industry, like you said, the galleries are open, but they're still online for now. So
Mhm.
how has that shift been?
Um, some of the galleries already open, but the viewing is by appointment, and
Okay.
the hours have been really cut to, like, I think from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. instead of, it used to be, it was 7 p.m. closing. So and then restaurants have started opening also,
Mm,
with distancing, of course. Although in the Philippines, because we're a dense country, where Manila is like a really dense city, so there
yeah.
are places that there's always a risk that people don't do social distancing, and it's always still a risk to go out. So yeah, people go out for walks if they can, or if they have. We don't have any more quarantine
Mm-hmm.
passes. We can do that. So the artists, my friends, have started visiting each other for
Oh.
home lunches, like one on one with masks on, and or sending food to each other, or sending whatever to each other. Yeah, and then my galleries, my shows that was supposed to be for 2020, we're regularly talking, WhatsApping, and rethinking how
Mm,
it's going to be uh, how when the schedule would be, or if there will be changes, if it's going to be online or is there going to be a physical show. So we pushed the dates,
Mm.
and I think that's healthier also, because next year, if we have the shows next year, then the people are also more ready to
Yes, to
get the
receive it as
works.
well. Mm.
And then there's also a residency that I was given in San Francisco. It's an artist residency,
Wow.
but now also we don't know when
Oh
that will be.
no.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, a lot of talking, but it always starts with how are you? How are you doing with this quarantine? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the quarantine has actually kind of brought the art community in Manila closer?
Um,
Or
I think on an individual sense, yes, because people would, well, my friends, we would send each other messages, but in the beginning there was kind of like a quiet period that it seems like everybody was just um, dealing with it on their own.
mm-hmm,
Like there's
mm-hmm.
not a lot of social interaction, just dealing with it on our own.
Wow, but that sounds so exciting, like having the residency in San Fran and all these things. But it is like much of a bummer to have them be in a state of limbo now that we're all, every like this idea of a calendar is also just like useless because we can't even chart exactly what's going to happen. Okay,
Birthdays online, and
yes.
but other than that, I think, well, holidays, those things, we don't know when it will come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I have a final question about which is regarding, like what you just said about travel. So, with borders being closed indefinitely and, art is also becoming increasingly localized. I was wondering what your opinion was on how we can continue to sustain cross-cultural sharing of art, especially in the time where, borders are completely closed off. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the immediate response would be online, and the sharing would be more actually, because we're seeking out what's happening on the other side and it's easier to access it.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of actual artworks being shipped or being shown in institutions, because also institutions are facing challenges of their own, like some museums are closed, but and also, yeah, the whole machinery of shipping and all of that logistic part. So to me, I'm not sure when that would be possible,
Yeah.
or that could be done. If we're photographers, we are more flexible, I guess,
Yeah.
in the sense that we can print, we can send the file, they print it, and then it could be shown. But
That's true.
I think maybe right now we're just going to have to deal with the fact that online is the way to present the works. There are more, probably, instead of being wider, we go much deeper into the works of an artist. Like, let's say, right now
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of also reintroducing works from the past,
Yes.
because what happens usually, the usual was to anticipate monthly exhibitions, but now, since there was a pause, there seemed to be like a retro, like looking at the revisiting older works. and art
Yes.
and art could be revisited, doesn't have like an expiry date. It even has, some resonance to our times, so it also, for the artist and for the viewers, it also invites more understanding of what the artist really wants to say, or what
Yeah.
is the history of the artist, and what is um, the body of work, not just
Mm.
what was the last show. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's interesting to explore in that sense, and it's more honest, and authentic also, because sometimes big words really just cannot, make sense at the moment. So
Yep.
smaller words, words that can be shipped easily, transported easily, festivals that are a hybrid of online and physical. So
Hmm.
we're going to have to reimagine and reinvent a lot of things.
Yep.
Maybe more Zoom
Definitely.
conferences.
Definitely.
Yeah, and yeah, and hopefully we can find comfort in that we could still be connected to our community through these channels.
Yes, of course. Wow, yeah. Communication is honestly just it will always be there if your mindset is there, I believe. You know, borders are just physical and the communication will always be present. Okay, well, thank you so much, Wawi, for joining me today. And I really appreciate the chat. Thank you so much for taking some time to just chat with me.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Kim. Thank you, Dec. And hopefully I could visit Singapore again. And you're
Yes.
invited to visit Manila.